Alright, hello, welcome. My name is Shaina. I'm an astrologer, and today we are talking about a very important transit, a very important change in the astrological sphere, a pretty big fucking deal, and that is Pluto in Aquarius, and specifically what that actually means and what that actually means for you. So if you don't know anything about what I'm talking about, Pluto in Aquarius, what Pluto is, what Aquarius is, you just keep on hearing that something big is happening about Pluto and you want me to tell you how that's affecting you. I will tell you everything from beginner all the way to the most advanced. I will also tell you how to calculate your own fortune. My next video coming up, which is going to be Pluto through the houses, the transits, and then also at the end of this video, I have my own predictions for Pluto in Aquarius, or just basically the themes for us to expect to come up quite frequently upon entering the Pluto and Aquarius, sphere. So I have a lot to cover in this video and the next video. This is going to be a little mini Pluto and Aquarius series, but it's a big fucking deal, honestly, right? This is a generational shift. We are now entering, I don't even know what the name after Gen Alpha is. Oh my God, that's so weird. Okay, so I guess it's Generation Beta. Okay, that's so lame. Yeah, we're basically entering a new generation, Generation Beta, which is such a fucking put down name. Anyways, that's not what we're talking about today. But before we get any more in the video, let me just do some advertising. So if you don't really want to know, like, all the information behind Pluto and Aquarius and calculate it yourself, and you just want me to tell you what Pluto and Aquarius means for you, or you want a transit reading or whatever it might be, I sell all sorts of readings. I sell tarot readings, astrologer readings, synastry readings, transit readings. On my website, shainaemily.com, I also have an astrology TikTok and I have a personal Instagram. But enough talking about how much of an important deal this is. Let me just get into why this is an important deal, right? So let's get into the first section of this video, which is just basic questions about Pluto answered. So the very first question, let's start at the very beginning. What is Pluto? What does Pluto represent in astrology? Obviously, there's a lot of myth around Pluto and all that sort of stuff, and we all know that, you know, Pluto was a planet, isn't a planet, is a planet again, not a planet, right? All that sort of controversy, which goes into the meaning of Pluto as well. So basically, Pluto in astrology represents death, rebirth, trauma, like deep emotional, ancestral, like roots. I don't know what else to call it. It just represents all that dark, seedy side of life. It also represents power, control, how someone uses that power, how someone uses that control, how power and control is exerted onto somebody, how much power they have over themselves, you know, power over yourself, power over other people, rules and restrictions, but less in that Saturnian way, which Saturn tries to teach you lessons. Pluto isn't really trying to teach you anything. It's just trying to force you to shed the old to make way for the new. Like, Pluto really is all about transformation. And Pluto in somebody's chart represents your personal power and how you deal with power as an individual. Pluto in the sky is kind of representing what kind of almost like revolution society as a whole is kind of going through, right? And how big the revolution will be. What kind of things and themes will be revolutionized? What things will go through a major form of transformation, of death, of rebirth, right? You know, the Pluto story is he's the god of the underworld, so all those stereotypes that go along with it, sex, taboo, ooh, ah, torture even, abuse, karma, even like ancestral karma, inherited karma, even like paranormal stuff, all those big question mark things, you know, murder and death, and even like attachment style and how much you hang on to the things you have. Also, Pluto represents a lot of controversy. Libra represents like, put yourself in my shoes. Scorpio and Pluto represents like, you don't know the situation unless you were a part of it, right? That's very Plutonian themes. There's also really two interesting facts about Pluto I found. The first one is that when we discovered Pluto first, when we kind of was like, oh, this was a planet, that's when kind of the idea of suicide in connection with mental illness and as more of a choice and an option kind of came into the public sphere and the public consciousness. Like suicide in a non-war kind of way came into public consciousness, which is very Plutonic, you know, very mental health as well. Another thing about Pluto is that, as I mentioned, it had its status, it didn't, it has its status, you know, and it goes back and forth if it's a planet or not, which is very Plutonian. Like, you get something, it's taken away from you. How are you going to deal with it? Then you get it again. Then the rug is pulled out from under you. You're not that anymore, right? There's a lot of controversy around Pluto. There's a lot of controversy surrounding everything that has to do with Pluto in astrology. So it makes a lot of sense that this kind of back and forth goes on. You know, you either agree that it's a planet or you don't. You either like Pluto or you don't. It's a very controversial topic. It's a very heavy topic. So it is a big deal when it changes sign. And the main reason why it's such a big deal, and everybody's talking about this so much, as to why it's such a big deal. You were like, why, what is this? Like, you know, you might be kind of overwhelmed because I feel like everybody's talking about Pluto in Aquarius, but nobody's saying why this is a big deal. So the second question that I'm going to answer is, how long does Pluto stay in a sign in astrology? So if you didn't know, every planet does not stay in a sign the same length of time. We know that the sun stays in a sign about every 30 days. It changes sign every 30 days, but you know, every single planet moves a different length of time. For example, the moon changes sign every 2.5 days. Jupiter changes sign every year-ish, right? And then Pluto, the reason why, this is the key thing. This is why is Pluto in Aquarius such a big deal? This is why. It's because Pluto can stay in a sign anywhere from 12 to 30 years. So it is the farthest planet out in the solar system, right? So it is the slowest moving through the signs. So it represents big generational shifts, big generational changes. That's why when Pluto enters a new sign, it is the start, in my mind at least, and in just the way that we have tracked time in the past, it's the start of a new generation. And I'll talk about each generation and the Pluto sign they have within this little subtopic. Due to its erratic ecliptic, whereas the sun is like consistent, right? Very Leo, very fixed, very consistent, 30 days to a sign about, right? Pluto is not. Pluto, if you look at the orbit, it has a super erratic orbit, and it actually spends the least amount of time in its home placement of Scorpio, because Pluto rules the sign of Scorpio. It actually only stays in its home sign for 12 years, and it stays in its opposing sign, Pluto in Taurus, for the longest time, which is 30 years. So where we're at right now, Pluto in Aquarius, we're at a point where it's actually going to stay in this Pluto sign for quite a long time. It's going to be 20 years. Now, the next question I'm going to talk about is, how long was it in Capricorn? How long will it be in Aquarius? When exactly does this happen? Did this happen? Okay, so obviously we're all watching this video at different times. I want this video to be pretty relevant to you no matter when you're watching this within the realm of Pluto and Aquarius. So Pluto was in Capricorn for 15 years. And it's been playing this kind of back and forth game in Capricorn and Aquarius for quite some time now. Every planet except for the two luminaries, which is the sun and the moon, retrograde. And so that's why Pluto has been kind of going back and forth between these two signs. It's been moving into Aquarius, and then it'll retrograde and it'll go back through Aquarius into Capricorn. It'll go direct again and it'll go forward. And if you don't know what a retrograde is in astrology, it's just like you've heard Mercury retrograde, right? It's the same concept. Basically, it looks like from where we're at that the planet is moving backwards in the solar system, but it is not. It's still moving forward. It's just that we're now moving faster than the planet. We're going past it, right? It's just all perspective. And so it makes it feel as though that planet's energy is directed inwards. It's a little bit messed up. It's a little bit confused. It's a little bit contorted. We're not talking about retrograde, but just so you know, basically it looks like it's moving backwards. So it goes backwards through the signs, okay? So basically right now when I'm filming this video, Pluto is direct and it just went back into Aquarius. It's at 0 degrees Aquarius. It just moved in back into Aquarius on January 20th. However, it's 2024 right now. We're not done. It still has a little bit more time in Capricorn. So Pluto will stay in Aquarius until September 1st, 2024, and then it'll retrograde back into Capricorn when it finally on November 19th permanently moves into Aquarius for good, okay? And it's going to stay all through Aquarius now until March 8th, 2043. So that is 20 years, because we've been teasing since last year about Pluto in Aquarius. That's going to be 20 years that Pluto's going to be in Aquarius. That's a big deal. It's a big chunk of your life, my life, everyone's life, okay? Now for the next question, and the last question in this little segment, I'm going to very, very quickly describe Pluto in Leo all the way through Pluto in Capricorn, and then quickly touch on Pluto in Aquarius. I'm not going to go into super, super duper in-depth descriptions. This is just for you you to get an idea of the generations, okay? And it'll also help you figure out very quickly which generation you belong to. So Pluto was in Leo from about 1939 to 1956. Most of these people are our grandparents, but there are some kind of baby boomers that are in there. And I kind of mark this generation as like the Vietnam War generation. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think of it as very Pluto in Leo. Like they were promised all this like grandeur, you know, all their grandparents and their generations before them, they won the war and they're all war heroes. Oh, hello, little one. They were all promised all these medals, and their, you know, their grandparents are also proud, and that's kind of what they know is winning the war. And then it's kind of like that didn't happen, right? They were kind of betrayed in a way, and I think that's a very Pluto and Leo thing. It's almost like they were promised all this glory and all this like praise, and then they kind of didn't get it, and kind of dealing with that. Also, they have a big thing around individualization, that they're an individual, and I think that's a big adverse thing that they have to astrology, because again, Aquarius rules astrology. It kind of says that you're not an individual. It says that there's a lot of things that are fated, and I think that the Pluto and Leo generation kind of has that adverse feeling to that. There is something about Pluto and Leo that wants to fit in, but still feel like an individual while fitting in. Next up, we have the Pluto in Virgo generation, which is your classic boomer, okay? Pluto was in Virgo roughly from 1958 to 1971. Okay, so Pluto and Virgo makes so much sense because boomers love their rules. They're so fucking annoying. They're just little pesky Virgos, like little things that don't matter. They're going to be nitpicky about. They're going to be controlling. They're going to make rules just for rules. They're going to want everybody to fall in line. There's just a lot of control issues surrounding the boomer generation, okay? A lot of obsessive control issues, you know, pushing down mental health problems, all that sort of stuff. Very Pluto in Virgo. They did not handle their problems very well, right? Okay, also they're all super duper cheap, and they all cosplay as though they don't have a bunch of money and a bunch of money stored away. Very Pluto in Virgo, right? Okay, now we move into Pluto in Libra. That is obviously generation, is it X? The lost generation? Okay, that exactly demonstrates Pluto in Libra. What generation? Nobody really knows about them. Nobody really cares about them. That's Pluto and Libra. How does it feel to be the middle child, basically? Middle child syndrome. I don't know. Sucks to suck. No one really cares about you that much. There's not really much to say. Very Pluto and Libra. Just kind of falls in line. So this is from basically 1972 to 1983. Okay, now we have Pluto in Scorpio. These are our millennials. Pluto in Scorpio, again, it only hung out for a short period of time from 1984 to about 1995-ish. Okay, so Pluto in Scorpio millennials, they also have a lot of Capricorn planets. They're just depressed. They're just sad. They're dealing with all the trauma and control issues that their Pluto and Virgo parents like didn't deal with, right? They have all that passed down shit. They're dealing with a very changing world. That was, you know, their whole thing is like 9/11, very Pluto and Scorpio, very conspiracy theory-esque. They're also like the main generation to kind of break out and try to make taboo things not as taboo anymore, with all the reality TV shows and all, like just kind of just in general with the way that culture shifted. The rebel kid was very much in the 2000s when the millennials were like kids. Like the very jackass, very Scorpio, fuck you attitude was very much a thing. But now they're just kind of depressed, right? Okay, now let's move on to Pluto in Sagittarius. So Pluto in Sagittarius is obviously the Gen Zs. Pluto was in Sagittarius from 1995 to 2008. I am a Pluto in Sagittarius. I'm like a in-between child, right between Gen Z and millennial, but I am a Pluto in Sagittarius. And basically this is like the we are all like political fighters generation. Like we all will fight for what's right. We're all going to stand up for everyone's beliefs. We're all going to lead the revolution. I'm louder and funnier. Also very much the new thing of Pluto in Sagittarius comedy, I think is very much Gen Z. Gen Z also has a lot of Aquarius planets. So it's a lot of like, oh, I'm just cool, I'm just chill. Oh, I care about this, but only as much as like enough to like be cool, right? And like knowing what's in, being very loud with makeup, being very bold. Also Gen Z, you know, online. So we see the beginnings, like Pluto and Aquarius is very much seen in like the beginnings of it is in Gen Z because they're very much like the internet generation. Also, they're called Gen Z and they have 2 Aquarius planets. There's something symbolic there, obviously. Oh yeah, the sense of humor of just like kind of laughing about everything, laughing laughing about death, laughing about mental health, making a joke about everything. That is very Pluto in Sagittarius, and also needing to be different, needing to be unique. So now let's move on to Gen Alpha with Pluto in Capricorn. So Pluto was in Capricorn from 2008 to 2023. Again, these roughly, like, yes, it's a little bit, but it's mostly 2023, right? So with Gen Alpha, we're still going to see kind of like what comes with them. I think there will be a major revolutionizing of the workplace, especially as they get older. If you think about it, especially with them, they're a lot of times they're like pandemic kids, so a lot of them weren't kind of integrated into school, and I think that had a lot to do with things. So because of the lack of integration from a young age, I think that is represented in their Pluto and Capricorn, and the fact that it will show that they won't be able to work as we have had to, right? Even Gen Zs that don't really fit into work environments and kind of are sarcastic about it, they still do. They still find their way, you know? They still find a way to adapt, you know, very mutable Pluto and Sagittarius, adapt their skills, which are like social media, into a job. They did that. Now, Pluto and Capricorn, I think it's just going to bust down that barrier, say, no, we're not going to work into these confines. Like, we need hyperstimulation because we have Neptune and Pisces, and we don't want to just do this all day. At least that's what I'm hoping. Pluto and Capricorn also, I feel like throughout the time of it, saw like the rise of the, you know, self-employed girl boss, even like girl boss, like just a self-employed own, you know, boss. And then it also saw the loss of that. I definitely feel like now we're moving more into people just want secure corporate jobs, and they're like okay with that, which is interesting. At least that's what I've been seeing more. Now that kind of goes into
The camera cut out. That goes into the fact that also Uranus is transiting Taurus right now, and especially during this past year or so, Jupiter's been in Taurus. So everybody really just wants security and money from their job. They don't want a girl boss like they used to. At least that's what I've been seeing on online trends.
And also, like, obviously we haven't seen the Pluto and Capricorn generation get older, but I think the main thing that you're going to see in them is just their complete inability to follow rules. And they don't give a shit. And they will find really smart ways to still follow the rules, but not follow them. And that will cause such a big breakdown in structures, which is really interesting. Now, Pluto and Aquarius. So Aquarius is all about innovation. It's all about moving things forward. It's all about the community, humanitarianism. It's the 11th sign. It's an air sign. It's a masculine sign. Also like communicating thoughts to everybody, right? Then that's advancing things. It's all about even like critical thinking, unique thinking, new forms of thought. It can also cause a lot of chaos, a lot of change, a lot of revolution. It does not get along with Scorpio. So this is not a comfortable sign for Pluto to be in. So that's why it's a little bit worrisome about the advancements that we will make in Pluto and Aquarius and how much they'll actually benefit us versus how much they might hurt us, due to the fact that Pluto is not necessarily that comfortable in Aquarius because it does square Scorpio. So these advancements, I think the main theme of Pluto and Aquarius, which is like, this is my main prediction, obviously all has to do with AI. I think that's something that we can all agree on, that these next 20 years we're going to see major advancements in AI, and pretty much all of our predictions and all of my predictions are going to be there because of AI, right? All because of the advancements in AI. I totally can't believe I haven't mentioned this yet, but I've been trying to dress for my videos, as I've been saying, and so I kind of dressed what I actually think Pluto and Aquarius encompasses. And Aquarius used to be like very fun and alien-esque and weird and different, but now because there's just so much Aquarius energy in the sphere with all these Gen Zs out there, and I'm just kidding, I think now the weird, odd thing to do is almost like go the opposite, especially with like, I guess, the end of Pluto and Capricorn. But it feels like Aquarius has gone more like serious, and like I take myself very seriously. There's something about Aquarius that I feel like has shifted, and I feel like it's very like robotic, minimal now. I'm hoping that within a Pluto and Aquarius, by the time it hits the middle, we'll see a revolution of kind of everything, and it'll go back to maximalism. But I think for these first like 10 years or so, we're going to be seeing a lot more of this like hyper streamlined stuff, but I do think that will break.
Wow, I'm so good at losing my train of thought. What I was trying to say, the point that I was trying to make is that's why I dressed in that like white collared button-up shirt, classic makeup look. That's the point I was trying to make. That's why I said that. Moving on.
I think the main theme that we will be experiencing with Pluto in Aquarius is something that I actually have the book right here. Hate it or not, this is something coming from directly from the book Industrial Society and Its Future by Ted Kaczynski, also known as The Unabomber Manifesto. This is a great book. I actually have a whole breakdown of Ted Kaczynski's chart, but basically what he talks about in Industrial Society and Its Future, at least one part of it, is basically the concept of, and so science marches on blindly. In this book, he talks about how science doesn't have like a conscience, it doesn't have like a set of morals. The main goal of scientists is to be the best scientist and to get the first patent or to discover this or to do that, right? It's not the humanitarianism award. That's not what you're going for. You're going for the science awards, right? So science is always going to march on blindly, like as fast as possible, with no regard towards the human race, positive or negative. If it helps them or hinders them, it doesn't matter. It's just like how people are out for money, scientists are out for their own advancement. And I think that's what Pluto in Aquarius is kind of going to show, right? I feel like that's never been highlighted. We think of scientists as like, oh, these great, amazing innovations, but they're only doing the things that are in demand, right? So if AI is in demand, which I think it obviously will skyrocket, it's only going to skyrocket even more in these next 10 years. That's what's in demand, and that's what science is going to progress. We've been watching these fucking Aquarian, Pluto and Aquarius, like Aquarian age, fucking robots take over, AI takes over, technology gets a mind of its own, smart house, fucking Disney Channel kids movie shit. Like, everybody's watched these fucking movies. Everybody knows the story, right? And so I think that's what we're marching towards, obviously, no matter what with this AI stuff. And science is going to march on blindly towards it because they're just trying to advance things. So yeah, try it and open your mind and give this book a chance, just because it talks about a lot more stuff than I bet you think it would. And this book couldn't be more relevant to Pluto and Aquarius. Like, he predicted everything, I think. He predicted Pluto and Aquarius, and that's not me trying to be like, this is terrible, blah, 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 because I don't think it's good or bad. I think astrology is inherently neutral. It is what it is. But I do think he's correct in where he thinks everything is going and the only way to save it. But I don't think it's possible. But maybe what he says will happen in like the next 10 years. Because again, with astrology, I think there are shifts. So I guess we're going into a little bit more of my predictions. I don't mean to, but basically with Pluto, there's going to be a praise and then a breakdown. Like, think of the MLM with Pluto and Aquarius, the praise of the girl boss and the breakdown, right? So with Pluto and Aquarius, it's going to be the praise of AI and then the breakdown. Okay. I'll go into that more with my predictions for Pluto and Aquarius though. The next section is going to be how to calculate your fortune, or basically how Pluto is going to affect you, right? When you watch those horoscopy prediction Pluto videos, what should you watch, right? People say rising, people say sun, people say this, people say that. I'm basically going to break down how I decide how Pluto in Aquarius is going to affect me and how, you know, I think you should decide, you know, whatever, you get what I'm saying. This is advice, whatever. Okay, so first of all, I will say the next video that I'm going to put up is going to be Pluto through the houses, Pluto transits, basically. So when that is up, I will put that in the cards above. And once you figured out how to calculate it, you're more than welcome to watch that video so you can know more specifically what, you know, once you find out how it affects you, what that means for you. But let's move into first question in this little subsection is, what are house systems and why do I use the Placidus house system? I'm going to make a whole video about this sometime in the future as to why I use the Placidus system and all the complexities of what they mean. And I'm not going to go into everything in this video, but I'm going to tell you basically that I use the Placidus house system. There's also whole sign, there's equal sign, there's Vedic astrology, there's tropical astrology. I'm a tropical Western astrologer that uses the Placidus system, that uses interceptions. I always say this. My dog's right here, okay? I just so you know. Basically, when you watch these Pluto in Aquarius or any sort of prediction horoscope videos, they're all whole sign astrologers, or at least the videos are using whole sign astrology. That's the only way you can generalize horoscopes for people, unless you specifically say Pluto going through the first house, or you look up, you know, Saturn going through the third house. If it says, you know, this is for Cancer risings, this is for Capricorns, this is for Scorpio suns, right? That is going to be using whole sign astrology. And that basically is because for equal sign, it's an equal amount of degrees. It's 30 degrees per house, 12 houses, and each house is 30 degrees and that encompasses from 0 to 30 degrees of one sign, okay? No interceptions. Now with Placidus, it's not that way. It's how it actually falls. So that means that there's 12 houses, right? But that means that they're a lot of times irregular. So you might be a Aries rising, but you don't have, you know, from 0 degrees of Scorpio to 30 degrees of Scorpio in your 8th house. You actually have Sagittarius in your 8th house, and you're like, who knows, right? So that's Placidus. Placidus is just like how the cards fall is how they fall, right? Like in tarot, if it's reverse, it's reverse. Whole sign is like, no, we're Virgos. We like to make everything even and perfect. And it's also easier to get more views doing these horoscope videos because people don't need to understand astrology and they can just, you know, I can just generalize for this. So it's not total bullshit, but it's a little bit of bullshit because it's not properly for you. This is how to actually calculate how Pluto's going to affect you if you want to use the Placidus system, which is how things fall, basically. So you're going to look up your chart, obviously, look at it in a wheel, and let's use a sample chart. I'm always going to use one of my favorite people, Danny DeVito. So let's pull up Danny DeVito's chart. He has a really nice rating. That's also why I like to use this chart. It's an AA. And let's find out how Pluto in Aquarius is going to affect him. So obviously you do need to understand a little bit about birth charts to be able to calculate this and astrology to be able to calculate this, but it's not that hard. I promise it's like simple matching up. Okay, it really is. Here is Danny DeVito's chart. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to do it if you don't know how to read a circular chart. Transits are basically how the sky is affecting you, which that is what we're talking about. Pluto transits, Pluto in Aquarius. How the sky right now is affecting you, your birth chart. So we're going to line up the sky's chart that's happening right now at this time, what's going on in the sky. That chart, we're going to line it up with your natal chart or whoever's chart or whatever's chart. Put them together, put the 12 signs so that they line up on top of each other and see how those two charts talk to each other. So now for this, we're only looking at Pluto and Aquarius. So we're only looking at how does Aquarius fall in your chart. Because wherever Aquarius falls in your chart, that is where Pluto is going to fall, because that's where Pluto is currently transiting. That's how it would overlay. So you're going to let's look at Danny DeVito's chart, and let's look for where Aquarius falls in his chart. So we need to look at the positions of houses. Houses are basically areas of life in astrology. You know, they align up with the 12 zodiac signs. So if we look at his chart, we see that in the positions of houses, we see house 2 is 3 degrees, 40 minutes Aquarius. So what that means is that Pluto will, for the most part, be transiting Danny DeVito's second house for the next 20 years. Now, it's not perfect. So that's why you can't be like, oh, this is going to be immediately happening now, blah, 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 because Pluto won't be in 3 degrees Aquarius until like next year. You know what I mean? It's a big difference. You might not have Aquarius starting a house until like 26 degrees, right? And so it's way more affecting the house before you than it is that house. And you're going to, if you just look online and you look for that rising signs horoscope, you're going to get the pretty much wrong horoscope. You're not going to be feeling that way for another like 15 years, right? So that's why I don't really like a lot of these horoscopy videos that go that way, because I don't use whole sign astrology. I only use Placidus. Even my predictions and everything, I only use Placidus. Basically, what I'm trying to say is let's look at Danny DeVito's chart, and basically we know that there's 0 to 3 degrees of Aquarius in his first house, because that's the house before it. So he'll be experiencing a little bit more of Pluto in the first house. And then for the next, you know, let's say like 19 years, he'll be experiencing Pluto in the second house in Aquarius. Now, but if you look at his third house doesn't start until 14 degrees of Pisces, until it's in the middle of Pisces. So he's going to be going through a very, very long Pluto in the second house period. So let's say poor Danny DeVito would go and look up, oh, Sagittarius rising. Let's look at my horoscope for Sagittarius rising. They're going to pretty much tell him that for Pluto and Pisces, that he's going to be experiencing it in the fourth house the whole time, but that man's still going to be having money issues for the next like 10, 15 years and be confused why, right? No, just kidding. So that's why it's kind of important to look at your own particular chart and look at it for yourself, so you can see exactly when Pluto goes into what house for you. And that's why it's really good for these Pluto transit videos to look at not only the house before it's going to be in, but also the house after. So for my Pluto transit videos, I'm actually going to include kind of a little bit about the house before you that you just went through, and then go into the house after, because I think it does play a big role. Now let's talk about some things to focus on with Pluto in Aquarius. You might be wondering, like, okay, so this transit's affecting everybody, so how does it affect me though, if everybody's going through this? Does it affect me more than most people? Will it affect me less? Well, I'll tell you. So it's easy to kind of see. The first thing to look at, oh, hello, mister. The first thing to look at is, does your Pluto make any aspect to Pluto in Aquarius? And when does it make aspect to it? So for example, Pluto in Libra will be going through a Pluto trine, which is soft, it's chill. Sucks to suck, millennials, you're still gonna be going through it. You're going to be going through a Pluto square, depending on where your Pluto is at in degree-wise in astrology. So that will cause a lot of friction. You will kind of be dealing with the height of your authority problems when you go through that. It will be a very make or break time. Like, it's almost like if you were going to go to prison, that would be when you were going to go to prison. Not saying that you're going to go to prison, but it's like metaphorically, whatever your prison is, whether that's death or a shitty job or a shitty marriage or having a kid you don't want or going through this thing that you don't want, right? It's going to peak when you go through this Pluto square. And how to know kind of like what that is really to look at your natal Pluto and the energy of what house it's in that area of life, because that's what you deal with. And whatever house Pluto in Aquarius is going through is going to be very vital to you, because again, it's going to square the house that your Pluto is natally in. So this is, for all millennials, a very big time. It's going to feel very different to who you are natally. As much as you might think, oh, we're ready for all these technological advancements, you aren't. You won't like where it's going, I actually think, as a whole. Not that every single millennial will feel specifically that way, but I think as a whole, that'll be the generational feeling, is that there is still some attachment to this real life connection that millennials have more than Gen Z and the generations after them. And then obviously it'll be going through an opposition with all those Pluto and Leos, but they're so old and I'm so over them. So hopefully they'll just be dying off because their ways are over. Their ways are done. Okay, if they can't move and get on with these things mentally and get a fucking email and an Amazon Prime account that they can manage themselves, then they're honestly obsolete. So this is make or break time for these fucking old ass Pluto and Leos. No offense. Fucking offense taken. I'm over it. Okay, Pluto and Sagittarius. We are getting kind of like, I think, the easiest side, which is Gen Z. We have a sextile, so it's not like perfect for us, but I think that we can make this Pluto and Aquarius thing work. And I think the way that we're going to make it work is just kind of like not really caring that much about what happens to the state of the world. That it's just like, it is what it is. I think that's going to be like the Gen Z kind of mentality, and to kind of laugh at it. There's more things to laugh at our misery with. Like, I think Gen Z loves doing that. Now, the next thing to focus on, if this is really going to affect you, do you have any planets in Aquarius? Because if you do, this is going to hit you really hard. For example, I kind of just occurred to me that I've been going through it. All my planets are kind of concentrated within the end of Sagittarius to the very beginning of Aquarius. So Pluto's been touching all of them. It's been going through a little like whack-a-mole, little domino effect here. And I think I might finally be feeling a little bit let up here, right? I don't know, who knows? It's going to my 8th house for me. But this isn't about me. This is about all of us. This is Pluto and Aquarius. This is about all of us. See, this is why I wore this outfit, because this is what it looks like. This is about all of us. Do I look like a mannequin? Will I be able to keep a job now? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so yeah, do you have any planets in Aquarius? I have a bunch of planets in Capricorn. I've been going through it. They've been conjuncting all my shit. I feel it. I'm a changed person. Holy shit. And so if you have a lot of planets in Aquarius, this is really going to affect you. Whatever planet you have in Aquarius, it will be going through it. It'll be going through a transformation. It will be revolutionized. Whatever you're holding on to that is unhealthy for you will break. And it's up to you to rebuild it and how you decide to fucking rebuild that shit, bro. Okay? And then the last thing to pay attention to, if this is really going to affect you, do you have any personal planets, which are the Sun through Mars, which will be square, opposite, or conjunct Pluto. Yeah, you can pay attention to trine and sextile. Those are nice, but especially you should focus on square, opposition, or conjunction, because these will be major themes as well. So that's basically Leo, Taurus, and Scorpio. Look at what planets you have in those signs. Look at what degrees. You can kind of track it a little bit, and those will be big kind of push pushing parts for you, right? So for example, like if you have Sun square Pluto and it's in Taurus, then you're kind of going to be forced to change your ways in ways that you don't like. Let's say you have the moon in Leo opposing Pluto in Aquarius, then you're going to have to kind of put aside your individual emotional needs for the emotional needs of the whole, or what's best for the whole. If you have Venus in Scorpio and it's squaring Pluto in Aquarius, then you're going to have to kind of deal with what it's like to have less and less human connection that you really crave, and deal with kind of what it's like to have more and more disconnect from people and how that affects you psychologically, right? So interpreting things like that, right? And if you're kind of confused and you're like need an astrologer to do that, obviously, there you go. I just did it on the spot. It's Pluto in Aquarius. Got to advertise. I have to advertise my services. Please go online. Bookings now. Okay. Oh, yes. Now we are getting to the end, the juicy part of the video, probably the part that only the people will care about the most, whatever, so goofy. These are my predictions for Pluto in Aquarius, what I think might come from Pluto in Aquarius, or if we want to be really vague and I want to protect my reputation, I'm just kidding, just some themes that I think will come from Pluto in Aquarius. So I honestly have quite a long list. So this is in no order. Let's just go. So the first main thing to mention, then there are a lot of good videos talking about kind of what's happened in past Pluto Aquarius times, and I think the most interesting thing to point out is the Industrial Revolution. And what's absolutely crazy is I was talking about basically Pluto in Aquarius to my boyfriend, because he's kind of getting some good astrological knowledge there, and without knowing anything, he was like, oh, it sounds like, you know, the end of the 18th century and the Industrial Revolution again. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, how did you literally just coin that? Because that was what happened last time that Pluto was in Aquarius. And that was literally what I was just about to say, which was the last time this happened, the Industrial Revolution happened. And he was like, oh yeah, so like right now we're kind of like in the cowboy era. And I was like, oh my God, we're in like the internet cowboy era. Like we're in the internet west. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know what else to call it. The internet will never be as like unfiltered and as uncensored as it has been. We will never go back to that. And I think that will be more censorship, more control over the internet, and more like paywalls, I think also will come from Pluto in Aquarius. And what I mean by like the internet cowboy times is like there's just like, it's like lawless. It's like lawless online. Like, you know what I mean? Like I can post this video and say a lot of things, you know what I mean? And who am I? And I'm not paying or doing anything to be able to say this stuff, right? I don't know if that'll be around anymore. Also, you know, obviously Industrial Revolution, I think now obviously it will go the AI way. Well, what I think will actually happen is that basically there will be a rise of AI for the first half or chunk of Pluto in Aquarius, and then it'll like get to a point that's too much that the people won't be able to take anymore, and then there'll be some sort of internet strike. You know, there'll be some sort of all these advancements, all these things, and then the people they'll be like the first social media strike that ever happened, or the first internet strike that ever happened, or like something like that, some big sort of Aquarian move or, you know, change or revolution that happens, that it's not industrial revolution, it's the technological revolution, right? That's going to be where the war comes in. I think it's either, if there is a war, it might not be a literal like pew 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 war. It might just be like a conflict of minds or whatever it looks like. I don't care. Again, these are just, that's why I said these are more like themes. I'm not trying to pick, this is exactly how it's going to go down. But we can see how I think these general themes are obviously going to come to play. We'll see how they pan out though, right? Another thing that I wonder is people like to talk a lot about aliens, like, oh, obviously Aquarius rules aliens, blah, blah, blah. But I think that, you know, I'm kind of more now under the thinking, and again, my mind's always open to change. I'm not trying to just like be Alex Jones and spread conspiracy theories. I'm just saying my opinion and putting it out there and just being vulnerable, I think, with my opinion more than anything, because my opinion will always change. But right now I'm kind of under the impression that I think that a lot of the alien sightings that we are allowed to see are more like, I'm sure you've heard of this, like, and I've seen this, I'm copying this from things I've heard. They're set up by the government because they're hiding different things of war, or they're hiding different testing things, or they're just hiding something from us, right? It's like a look over here tactic. Aliens, aliens, aliens. I'm not saying that aliens do or don't exist. I'm just saying that I think a lot of the things that we see and that we're allowed to see, that they show us and they allow to get out there, are things that they want us to see, is what I'm trying to say. And so I don't think, we're gonna see aliens. Like, no, I think actually where we're going with Pluto in Aquarius and with moving into the age of Aquarius, which doesn't happen. I keep on fucking forgetting when that happens. 2060 something. I'll put it here. This is when the age of Aquarius starts. I keep fucking forgetting. But I don't think that it's going to be that we see aliens from outside in. I think that it's going to be that either we create the aliens, which is AI, we create these technology aliens, these other species, we make that happen, or we become the aliens somewhere else, or also we might realize that we are the aliens. I do have this is kind of side, I don't think that much is going to happen in 20 years. I don't think, I'm not trying to make these huge gigantic claims, but I do have my own theory that I do think like we are the aliens on Earth, right? I'm sure you've all heard that. That's kind of what I believe right now. Like we were either put here or planted here or taken from somewhere else, or we've already, receded from somewhere else and put ourselves here because this was a livable climate. But I definitely don't think we are original species here. Just for the sake of that, we are the only species that only takes from the planet. We don't give to it. So there's something suspicious going on there. Maybe there'll be something exposed about that. And maybe that's why I'm bringing it up in this video. But either way, I think, yes, the theme of aliens and foreign cultures coming to the surface, but I don't think it's going to be as it seems. So that's just like my add-in. I don't think it'll be as it seems as my add-in, but I think themes of aliens and all that sort of stuff will obviously be there. I definitely think Pluto in Aquarius is going to even more push with isolation. We're all really, I feel like, not going to have friends in the same way that we had friends before Pluto in Aquarius. We're not going to have a job in the same way that we had a job before Pluto in Aquarius. We're not going to have human interaction, I think, in the way that we did before Pluto in Aquarius happened. I'm not going like really maybe too far into it, but like, how people are like, we just are out and about in public with everybody else intermingling and we just don't talk to people. What if we never like really intermingle with each other? We just feel that unsafe. What if Pluto in Aquarius makes us feel so unsafe to be in a society, in a population or something? What if it's like the turn inward, the turn towards more isolation and more feelings of difference? Or it can just be how it's gone in the past, which is just your classic revolutions, which is cool. But I just feel like we're so past the concept of war and the concept of your classic revolution. I think as a society, we're more separate than ever. That I'm like, is it possible for us to rise up? Or is it more probable that we'll separate, right? Either way, those themes are going to be prevalent, right? Those themes of community versus the individual are going to come to a peak. The big thing that I heard a lot of people talk about with past Pluto and Aquarius times was the French Revolution, and especially the invention of the guillotine, which basically what I got from that was like, okay, themes of new ways to kill people, new ways to even like maybe mass murder people, to mass genocide people, new rules to mass genocide people, new ways that we mass genocide people, new ways that we categorize people, new ways that we get angry at people, new ways that we fight people. Like fighting will be revolutionized. Maybe we'll have the first fully technology warfare, where it's like maybe we'll even have like a war simulator, or I don't know, just new ways of doing wars. I keep on coming back to that. I don't mean to, but then I'm like, okay, it must be a thing if accidentally it keeps on circling, right? But yeah, basically new innovative ideas and inventions with death and destruction and tyranny, basically, yay. I definitely think there will be more of a fight for a technology monopoly, and there might be a problem with like one company like Apple or something having too much power, or Elon Musk, or whoever basically what I'm trying to say, whoever holds the newest technology in the world, or just in general, holds the power. That's what will come to be in these next 20 years. I think it maybe was money with Pluto and Capricorn, or resources. Resources maybe even with Pluto and Capricorn. But now I think it's the newest technology and the newest advancements. I definitely think that technology with Pluto and Aquarius will wind up ruling the line and ruining the line between life and death. Like, we will be completely dependent on technology, whether somebody lives or dies. Now, what that means, I don't know. This is a big conspiracy theory, and I mean this in the most neutral way possible when I say this. I do think there is a possibility that with Pluto and Aquarius, right, there's this rise up and this peak of like AI and it taking over, and then it realizing that it's getting out of hand, and then there needing to be a shutdown and a turn off or a stop. So there's like all those people that are like I don't even know what it, like EMP or whatever that means, just something to kind of stop all technology from happening. Will that look like an overnight shut off? Probably not. Maybe. It definitely could with Pluto and Aquarius. But maybe there will be, I think no matter what, there will be a little bit of a record scratch moment halfway through Pluto and Aquarius and a revertment. And a hold on, whoa, this is moving too fast, or it'll explode, it'll implode, it'll go too far, and it will need to redo itself. That's the classic Pluto thing, right? At the worst moment, it'll break. The internet will break. Something will break. And then it will need to be rebuilt. So maybe it will look like this whole like EMP thing. Maybe it'll just look like an internet crash, like a worldwide internet crash or something like that. I don't know. Again, I'm not trying to predict exact things, but you get the theme of what I think is going down, right? Another theme that came with Pluto and Aquarius was a change from absolutism, like monarchies and there being one main power, to the destruction of that, basically, and new power, new rulership. So Pluto and Aquarius can definitely be a possibility for more socialism or communism, communistic like ideals, or at least, if not that, maybe a whole new form of thought, a whole new philosophy of thought. It can definitely, Pluto and Aquarius, revolutionize thoughts, revolutionize groups, revolutionize how we categorize people, revolutionize how we do things, how we look at people, all that sort of stuff. Obviously, changes in currency, changes to digital currency, taking away coins, even maybe taking away the idea of physical money. All that sort of stuff is a big possibility. Even like, I don't know much about like world events. I'm not going to pretend that I do, so that's why I don't want to talk about it that much, but there obviously will be big shifts in that realm, but there might be a big change to pushes for more peace, more cooperation, less cooperation, a breakdown of how different places with rulerships are run. There'll just be a big theme on freedom. There'll be a big theme on rebellion. Okay, there will also be a big theme of, will the little person win out? Or will the man win out, right? That will be major conflict with Pluto and Aquarius, right? And there won't be one winner. It'll always go back and forth, but it'll show that, right? There'll be a lot of back and forth within that. Also, I think that AI is going to get so smart that we think of the concept of we're going to teach AI to get smarter, we're going to advance AI, but also AI and technology with Pluto and Aquarius, you know, it's transforming things, it's turning things around. I think it'll also teach us, right? I think we will also learn from technology. It will move faster than us. That has already happened a few times where AI has advanced fields and come up with new ways of doing things that will then teach the people these new ways, and then they'll find new ways to do things, to do in their craft. So it'll move things along a lot faster. Also, there is a lot of, as a person, a scariness in this, because there is a lot of, like, again, potential for people to lose their power and for technology to gain power. There's a big theme of that within these next 20 years. In the last 15 years, the theme has been all around big business and these big CEOs. Like, I think one of the biggest Pluto and Capricorn people is Jeff Bezos. He is a Capricorn. I mean, come on. He is a very Pluto and Capricorn kind of symbol. Is there a big Aquarius sun that you guys know of that you think might be the big next Pluto and Aquarius symbol? And no, Elon Musk is not an Aquarius. Speaking of Elon Musk, space flight, drones, flying cars, flying drones. Even though there have been advancements at airports with like all the new, you know, security, there's been no advancements in the basic plane. Like the basic commercial flight has stayed about the same length of time, about the same thing. There's been minor upgrades and changes, but the overall plane experience, other than smoking or non-smoking, other than that, it's pretty much not changed. So probably Pluto and Aquarius, that's going to change. I guess the first flight took place during a Pluto and Aquarius time. So people are saying like, oh, more space flights, and maybe, but I am now very like, I'm very much like a space skeptic now all of a sudden. Like I don't believe in the moon landing. I don't believe we've ever really been to the moon. But despite what I believe, it don't matter. Maybe there will be advancements in, there probably will be advancements in space flight, obviously. And it might get much more accessible, and what that'll do to human consciousness. And there might even be a lot of like space deaths. Like we might have the first big space death. That would be really interesting. Well, I guess we've had like the flight issues, but we've never had like, have we ever lost a famous person to space? Like I think there's just going to be a normal civilian or celebrity space crash that'll be like devastating and really change things. Definitely changing from not only digital currency, but just moving from paper to technology, paper being almost obsolete. Nobody knows how to write in cursive anymore. Nobody's gonna know how to write in print. Nobody's gonna know how to hold a pencil, I bet pretty soon. It's all gonna be moving to the technology-based sphere. And no, that's not all gonna take place in the next 20 years. Definitely a lot more social experiments, definitely a lot more through social media, more digitizing the human experience, you know, more advanced video games, technology just becoming such a part of the day-to-day life, and also what that does to the brain, what that does to our health, what that does to the human experience, just all the stuff that encompasses that. I feel like I'm repeating myself, just every way that you could look at the sphere of technology and AI and how it will influence us. That's going to be what happened, because the Industrial Revolution was machines. It's Uranus, it's Aquarius, right? And now this is the sphere past machines of robot technology, right? You get it. Okay, so that's basically my predictions. It all has to do with AI and all that sort of stuff, all that sort of Aquarian forward motion, revolutionary stuff. You also have to think about now how it's affecting the other energies. Like, let's talk about the planets it squares, which is Scorpio and Taurus, and the planet it opposes, which is Leo. Okay, now let's talk about what Pluto in Aquarius is going to do for intimacy, because it squares Scorpio. Okay, this is going to be a crisis for Scorpio. We're really going to lose touch with physical touch. We're really going to lose touch with intimacy, human emotion, human understanding. It's going to go to a much more desensitized way of thinking and a much less emotional way of thinking, and how that affects things. And then with Taurus, with food, I think it's really going to affect our food and how we eat, Pluto in Aquarius. I think that it's going to cause a lot less also indulgences. Like, that's why I kind of dress like this. For some reason, Pluto in Aquarius feels very stiff to me. Even though it shouldn't, for some reason it does. It feels very crisp and very clean and very not comfortable, not Taurus, not indulgent, not connection oriented, not comfort oriented, but rather progress and discomfort oriented, right? Without discomfort, there is no change. So there will kind of be a lot of unrest with this whole Pluto in Aquarius thing. And lastly, with it opposing Pluto in Leo, the loss of individualism for the sake of the collective. We are less going to care about the individual's experience, and we are going to more care about the collective experience and how it relates to the collective consciousness, and how it relates to, again, progressing things forward, moving things forward, new advancements, new ways of thought, right? And that forgets about the little person, the Leo, right? Well, I'm really good at my craft. Well, I do something that robots can't do, which is have a heart, have desire, have passion. You know, technology does not have the heart that Leo has, does not have the passion, the soul, the finesse even that Leo has, and the struggle and the opposing thing within that. Like, can AI have the heart that it never has had before? Pluto in Aquarius will kind of shine a light on that thought, right? So those are my predictions or themes or just general thoughts on Pluto in Aquarius. So overall, I would say I am a little bit nervous for it. I'm definitely feeling about this transit a lukewarm 6 out of 10. I really think that it'll be funny in the fact that I love chaos. I love watching chaos. I love watching things break down. I love watching things change. But I'm also very apprehensive because as much as I love technology, I think there's going to be a major monetization of technology that's going to make it more inaccessible during these next 20 years. And that's my favorite thing about technology, is how accessible it's become. And I don't want us to lose that. And I'm nervous about that. I'm also nervous about, again, it taking away the inaccessibility of human connection, but also it is what it is. Like, okay, I do have this feeling that it's like once we put this thought that, you know, we have all those movies and all those things of like AI taking over, robots taking over. Once that thought came to an existence, once we started writing and had all these movies, like it was an inevitable. It feels like the inevitable is for the human race to become obsolete and for technology to advance farther. And what will happen, what will come of that, I don't know. But I feel like it's an inevitability because if it was in the human consciousness enough for it to be picked up and written about, it's in the human consciousness enough for it to exist, which means it's going to happen. At least that's how I feel about things right now. I feel like it's an inevitability, right? What will happen will happen. So let's just sit back and enjoy it. There's really no need for stressing out about it, okay? Take this stuff that I said, but don't worry about it. Just throw it away and go on with your life and enjoy it. But yeah, these are just some thoughts. So if anything, if they happen, just be like, damn, that girl Shaina was right. She's badass. I can't do what she does. I'm gonna book a reading from her. No, I'm just kidding. But if I'm wrong, feel free to shame me. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned a little bit about Pluto. I hope you learned a little bit about Aquarius. I hope you kind of have your own thoughts and feelings about Pluto and Aquarius. Let me know your predictions in the comments. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. All right. Bye.